it's Bryn with Backward Prints. I have a really special treat for you today. I have put together a wonderful little lesson plan on how to break down a sea landscape in 3 easy steps. There are 3 simple ways to break down a beach landscape. The first thing you can do is look for shapes and forms.
I love using different colored markers because it helps me to visually map out the different forms and shapes. I can use them to help me find what's in the foreground, the background. I can even use a different color to help me find the horizon line. As you start to lay down the different colors, you'll begin to see different shapes appear in front of your eye. If it helps you, you can also use your markers to fill in those spaces on your printout. When you actually begin to draw your piece, this printout will become like a map to find treasure. Extremely useful. To begin your drawing, take a ruler and draw your horizon line. If you don't have a ruler, you can take a piece of paper or anything that will help you create a straight edge. Now sketch out the different shapes and forms on your piece of paper. You can always go back to the printout for a reference. The second tip I have for you is negative and positive space. Now, this is a little bit more tricky to explain with this particular photograph that I'm using, but here's how I'll break it down. So let's take the sky, for example. So I'm using my glitter pen and I am tracing everything except the palm trees. I'm basically outlining the outside of the palm trees, and what's happening is that we are looking at the space, which is technically the sky. So a better example is in art school was when my teacher showed a picture of a vase and said the vase is the positive space and everything around the vase is negative space. Now, to make this a little bit easier, I'm using the markers to block in that negative space. Helpful, right? Except the yellow marker is running out of ink. So I'll have to grab a different color marker to show you. When you start training your eye to see the negative space, the spaces, those particular spaces have very interesting shapes. And it's easier sometimes to draw that shape first, and then you can go back in and draw the palm trees, or like example I gave you, the vase. If you draw the space around the vase, and then all of a sudden you have the vase already drawn without actually drawing the vase.
After laying in the simple shapes and forms, I'll go in and add the palm trees. I like to draw very lightly with the pencil. I do this because I will be applying pen and I'll want to erase the pencil afterwards. Make sure you use an archival ink pen such as Micron. Have fun, enjoy the process, and don't be afraid to make mistakes because that's how we as artists grow. My last tip of advice is when drawing and breaking your design down is a trick that I learned a long time ago is breaking down scale. And sometimes when you look at certain lines or when you're looking at, let's say, the cactus or something that's closer to you, even the hillside here. Now, because of this particular design, I didn't have to do it too much, but let's say that, you know, that this angle, there's like this angle right here. Let's say you're not really sure if it goes up or down and you're not sure, you know, how to figure that out. When you're outside drawing plein air, which is live, or when you're inside drawing a photo you took of the beach, you can take your pen or your pencil and you can use that as a way to kind of check. You would hold it out in front of you and you would put your thumb here, and let's say this represents, like, let's say this represents an inch. So you could be like, oh, my scale, you know, you would kind of close one eye and you would look at what you're doing and you would see that, okay, this little bush is about an inch, you know, from what I'm looking at. And then you can also kind of hold it and you can, I like to actually take, when I have my printouts, I like to take a pencil and lay it down. And what I'll do sometimes even is I'll make a mark on my paper, even like this hillside, let's say. Well, this is the horizon line. This is completely straight. But then if I hold the pencil end here and I move it this way, I can see the exact angle of the Laguna Beach hillside. Now I could take another pencil and pretend that that represents the horizon line, and then there you go. So these little tools will help you to lay out the angles. It'll help you to figure out scale, how small, how big should the hillside be when I'm drawing it out. Another tip would be that, here's the piece of paper. This is why I think it's helpful to print out a piece of paper, is when you're breaking up your shapes and when you're looking for shapes and different forms, you're probably also thinking like how, like scale, how, you know, how big, how much of space is the cactus going to take up comparatively to, let's say, maybe the hillside or the sky. So you can see that this particular design, when I put the pencil here, it's almost 50-50. It's almost 50-50. It's actually maybe a little bit, it's almost 50-50. So, and when I say that, I mean that we could fold that piece of paper in half and it's equal distance above and below. So that's how I figured out where to put my horizon line. Boom, right? That tells you this is the foreground here, background, and we know that the hillside's very far away. So it can't be that big because it's not right in front of our face. So it's got to be smaller. And by the drawing, you can tell that if we go back to the measuring tool with the pencil and holding your thumb, you can see that that's about an inch. And then I can use the pencil and I can even place my finger and I can pretend like this pencil's a ruler. Now this piece of paper is a little bit bigger than my computer paper, but you can use your pencil and you can come over here and again, you can break up your measurements. You can make little slash marks. You can kind of, you know, make little tick marks with your pencil to represent those different things that you're looking at. And the last thing, I already said the last thing, but one more thing I would like to add that I haven't mentioned is baby L's. Now, when you're outside and doing plein air, you can take your left hand and your right hand and make baby L's, and you can bring them together to create basically your square, or let's say you're doing, this is, we have horizontal, vertical, so horizontal, vertical orientation. So when you're outside and you're trying to figure out what you're doing, you're trying to figure out what my composition is, this is easy because I have already taken a picture and I know that this is basically my L's are already here. So those are just tips. If you're out and about, you can use your fingers. And that is just basically showing you your composition, which will help you figure out where the horizon line goes. And you may have a design that maybe the horizon line is further down or further above. Maybe you have more clouds, more sunset up here, and then maybe your foreground, maybe the horizon line's lower. So those are just tools, tips, and tricks, and to help you further break this up and to kind of break it into pieces so that it's not so intimidating to you. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below. Thank you so much, and stay tuned to more videos. To learn more about backward prints, head over to www.backwardprints.com.